This is the richest environment on Earth. The snake relies on water to help support its huge bulk. The anaconda spends its life in or around water. Second in length only to the reticulated python, the much heavier anaconda can reach 8 meters from nose to tail tip. Some reports claim much longer. They lie in wait for animals that come down to the river, such as capybara, agouti, other large mammals, and even caiman. The boa constrictor is often found hanging over rivers, but often ventures further afield. Like its bigger cousin, it doesn't possess any venom apparatus. It's a constrictor, suffocating its prey to death. As it moves across the forest floor, it's clear how the muscular body of the snake propels the reptile forward. In the trees above the boa, there's a whole host of snakes, all the way up to the canopy, exploiting every niche in the environment. This small specimen is in search of young birds. In the open branches, the birds catch sight of it and all start to make a racket as they mob it. They draw attention to its presence. Now there are 5 or 6 different species of birds here, all giving alarm calls. The female sits tight in the nest on the youngsters, offering them some protection from this would-be predator. It deliberately seeks out colorful flowers, such as those of the heliconia. It drapes itself over them and blends in very well with their bright coloration. It waits patiently in the hope that a hummingbird can't hear the music, but it's the shape and decoration of the flute and its motion which attracts the snake and makes it spread its hood. Some cobras have the ability to spit venom. The holes are in the front of the fangs and not at the tip, and they can project the venom forward and spit in the face of a predator to blind it temporarily while the snake escapes. In Central Africa, some cobras have become completely aquatic. This is a water cobra, another highly venomous species which feeds on fish. This one is looking for a particular fish, a cichlid, the female of which spends most of her time inside an empty snail shell. The cobra has to search out each shell in turn to find a female. The venom is very toxic and kills the fish very quickly indeed. In the same lake, a young python is investigating the area for food. It's not a particularly aquatic snake, but it does spend a lot of time in water looking for frogs and rodents. The large bulge in its body is evidence of the frog it has just eaten. The Nile monitor is semi-aquatic in its habits. Pythons do eat monitors, and monitors do eat pythons, but the lizard is too large for the snake, and the monitor can only overpower the python by beating it on the ground, which is impossible in the water. Eventually, a stalemate is reached. They split up and go their separate ways, none the worse for the gazelle. It has finished constricting it at the side of the road and is trying to swallow it. What the python didn't realize is that as this gazelle is a male, it has very large horns. It can drag this huge animal around in its jaws very easily, but what it can't do is get its mouth over those horns. People have found pythons that have managed to swallow a gazelle like this, with the horns protruding from the side of the snake, killing the reptile during the process of swallowing. It makes many attempts, but at the end of the day it can't swallow it, so it has to leave its kill for the vultures or the hyenas. Bird eggs are the sole diet of the egg-eating snake. Once it locates the nest, it swallows the eggs easily. In the snake's throat, the egg comes up against spine-like projections from the reptile's vertebrae. With a twist, the shell is broken. The contents of the egg go down into its stomach. The shell and membranes are formed into a little packet, which is coughed up. And sidewinders. It knows how to tackle them. It grabs them by the head and shakes them against a rock and swallows them down whole. This is a small type of rattlesnake, some species of which reach over 2 meters. The sidewinder rarely reaches half that size. Few animals can move at speed across loose sand. It's seeking shade in the heat of the day and will spend the hot afternoon in the shadows. This is a track left by an ordinary rattlesnake. It has made very slow progress in a more or less straight line. It's in the process of shedding its skin, which it does on a regular basis. This is essential for growth. The snake's scales are hard, so they have to be shed, and while new ones are still soft, they grow a little. This also allows them to clean themselves and get rid of ticks and mites. The skin comes off at the head end first, and the snake crawls out, leaving it inside out like a discarded sock. A growing snake will shed its skin many times a year, but an adult snake, which has slowed down in growth, may only shed 3 or 4 times. Every time it sheds its skin, the rattlesnake adds another section to the rattle at the end of its tail. The rattle is very important to a rattlesnake. It's a defensive adaptation to prevent large animals from stepping on the reptile. The rattlesnake evolved, we think, on the plains of North America where large animals, like bison, roamed around. The rattlesnake could be killed or disabled if trodden on, so it needed to advertise its presence, and it does this by having this rattle at the end of its tail, which it shakes, making a very harsh rattling sound. It's certainly audible for quite some distance. Animals usually avoid going any closer. Each animal keeps a healthy distance from one another. The cow stays away, and the snake moves back to safety. Completely moonless night, it can detect and strike at the rodent. It then follows its scent trail to where the victim is dying. As well as disabling the prey,
of other predators. Vision is supplemented by 2 concave heat sensors just below the eyes. Relying on its immense strength, the anaconda squeezes the life out of its helpless prey. But how is it possible for a snake to devour an animal that is larger than its mouth? Snakes, even venomous ones. The mangrove snake delivers a mild venomous potent venom with fangs toward the front of its mouth. Although small in comparison to the gaboon viper's inch-long fangs, the king cobras are no less effective. As it strikes, the cobra holds on tight, ensuring the venom finds its mark. Within minutes, the mangrove is dead. The Cape cobra spreads its hood to make itself appear larger than it really is. meerkats group together to appear as one large animal to the snake. This time, the confrontation ends in a stalemate.
As she entered the court and appeared to hurt her